astrology soulmates, it's me, Stormie Grace, and in this video we are going to talk about the full moon that is coming up in the vibration of Virgo, coming up February 24th, and this one I think is a real like get your life together kind of full moon, but it is one that we know and we're ready. We're ready to take the steps. We're ready to take the action. There's kind of like you resign from the debating society, and I think there's a bit of willingness and definitely cosmic support to move things forward. So if you are interested in seeing how this particular full moon is going to impact you, that in this video. If we haven't met before, I am practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace. I'm an evolutionary and a humanistic astrologer. So if you like content and language of astrology that comes through that lens, then that's what we're doing here. So absolutely welcome. I'm thrilled to have you. Okay, beautiful friends. Now, before we jump into this video, first of all, if you don't have your own digital transit calendar, if you're not able to kind of keep track of what's going on in the sky so that you know when this is hitting you, so you can track the lunar families that I talk about when we're doing the new and full moon videos, please grab yours from our friends at Wise Skies Collective. If you use my code, you're going to get a little bit of a discount. All of that is available in the description box down below, so make sure you grab it and sign up. And beautiful friends, if you are ready to really speak the language of astrology, if you've got your planet signs and houses down, but you don't quite know how to put it all together, especially with the aspects, this is going to be the class for you. I've got a 6-week class coming up. We start right at the beginning of March, and we are going to go for 6 weeks and bring these charts together, all chart synthesis, all interpretation. So if that's a skill you're looking to develop or practice, absolutely love to have you in class. Everything in the description box down below, which I think is an absolutely beautiful segue into what this moon has got going on for us, because it's in the vibration of Virgo. Virgo is a mutable earth energy ruled by Mercury, the planet of information. So one of the things that comes to my mind immediately as we're talking about this Virgo vibration is that Virgo is about learning. It's about having the right technique. It's about having the right technique. It's about having the right skill. It's about taking information we have and being able to actively and effectively apply it, but also to discern which information we actually need to be able to make an accurate prediction or to be able to make an accurate plan to move something forward. Because the other great quality of Virgo is being the virgin, of being this, you know, the kind of the nurse energy. We've got it together. We're going to tend to health. We're going to tend to wellness, make this the very best that it can be. So in this way, Virgo is also a health keeper in our chart. So being able to look at the information that we have, effectively and efficiently apply it so that we can make a plan to be the very best that we can be and discern between what needs our attention, what doesn't need our attention, is going to be really the gift of this virgin energy, as long as we do not get locked down into the analysis paralysis that can also come when we're dealing with Virgo. And that is due to the real nature of a mutable energy. So the mutable energies transition us from one thing to the other. Okay, so when we're thinking about the seasons, we've got the cardinals that start us, the fixed that hold us down, and the mutables that get us from one season to another. Virgo is mutable, but one of the tendencies of a mutable energy can be to worry. We're worrying so much, and in Virgo, we're worrying so much about the details, we're worrying so much about the information that we're actually locked in analysis paralysis. But here, at this particular lunation, because it is a lunation, I think that there's this energy of swift culmination that is available here. There's a, what's the purpose of this? I'm not getting information for no reason. So I feel like there's an internal knowing, you know, that the astrology is pointing to, that is like, I know I have to nurture this area of my life, of my being, of a situation in order to make it a plan, to make it as healthy as it can be. I'm going to use the information to discern my best pathway forward. So when we're looking at this particular chart, one of the first things we want to note here is that the aspects that actually create a full moon for us are going to be that we have the moon on one side, and that's in Virgo over here at 5 degrees. And we've got the sun over here in Pisces also at 5 degrees. Now, the sun and the moon, our luminaries, are opposing each other. So they're pulling in two different directions, right? So it illuminates for each of us my needs versus my wants, my insides versus my outsides. So an opposition can feel like this. It's going this way, it's going this way. And so the tension is the pull that's going on. But what we want to do to work with that is to create an integration. Where are both sides, right? Where is that sun where your ego's at and you want to be seen and you want to be shown for this and you want to be spiritual and you want to be compassionate and you want to be kind and you want to just be easygoing and let it all be like this, right? But also, where is the insides? Where are those aligning? Where what's really true is that you know that there's a system, there's a process, there's something that lacks health or lacks vitality. And in order for you to be well, you've got to let go, transition from something, move to something else in order to have that health and wellness. So where are both sides correct? And you can find that sweet spot in the middle. And where I think that this full moon grants us an opportunity to do that is by, first of all, realizing that the full moon calls us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make the adjustment. But we're doing it with all the light in the sky. You can see what's happening. This is not a new moon where the sky is dark and you're kind of, with your little squinty eyes going about going, well, what is it? I don't know. I can just sense something's different, but I can't really see what it is. At the full moon, the lights are on. So you walk into the room and you're like, why is there a panda in the middle of the bedroom? Where did the panda come from? Oh, I know. I left the window open so the panda came in, right? Like it's very clear what needs the attention. So first of all, we get that invitation to find it in the middle, to go, okay, between these two things, I can see very clearly there is this thing in my life. And the houses in your chart will give you the key as to where this is unfolding for you. So when you're listening, make sure you're also listening for what house this is happening in for you, okay? But the other thing that we're offered in trying to find this integration to the middle is the difference and the integration between charity and service and health and service. So this trusting in the spiritual plane and this creating of the plan in the material plane. Okay, so they're coming together in the middle and it's going, okay, the only way that I'm going to be able to integrate both of these is to, one, have some compassion, some forgiveness for myself. And that is that Pisces sun shining through, right? And the truth is we have to immediately, when something is off, when something needs our adjustment, needs our discernment, we need a plan to get away from the pain point, we have to get busy forgiving ourselves for what we didn't know. I didn't know how to do that, or maybe I did know how to do it and I just chose not to actualize that. So immediately where the sun can really benefit and walk towards this middle of service is by beginning with a lot of forgiveness, okay? So that's one way to start inching the sun this way towards the middle. Now the other side is to inch the moon this way and to go, okay, well, I cannot be stuck in analysis paralysis, and I can just begin to understand from the inside out that for me to be okay, for my insides to feel center, I have got to make a plan. I can use the information to create a plan. And while I'm enacting that plan, these two meet in the middle for an integration where I have love and I have compassion and I have forgiveness of myself, for myself, to myself, to take the information that becomes available to me and make a plan to get my life together, to move towards the healing. And that's a real integration at this particular moon. Now, we've also got some other cosmic supporters that I think help really turn up the volume on what we're looking at. So let's explore a little bit more of the aspects that we've got going. First of all, because this lunation is happening in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, we want to see what Mercury's doing. And Mercury here is in this continuing to get tighter conjunction with the sun and with Saturn. And I think that this is really important for us to kind of put in our thought box because, first of all, Mercury is not retrograde in any way. It's not in pre-retrograde. It's not in post-retrograde. It is bringing new information, new current information. And about what? It's in Pisces. So this is spiritual. This is things that have maybe been hidden. The information's there. It's been presenting itself, but maybe we couldn't interpret it. So now the information that's maybe been hidden is becoming known. And one of the examples I like to think of, I'll just share with you guys, is that, I've talked about it. I'm like, doing a little perimenopause deal over here, which is really different. And before I really knew what was going on, I had some symptoms that were like, oh, maybe I'm just a little bit tired. Maybe it's a little bit this. But what it always felt like is something's different, but I know it. Like I know something's different, but I can't quite put my finger on what that is, right? And then after we do some tests, and the tests bring up the information, it brings up the information of what was hidden. And I think that is a full expression of what Mercury, Sun, and Saturn are doing here together. They're going, okay, there is this realization of what has been going on, and there is data brought together to also confirm what I've only been able to feel, but I wasn't really able to articulate or really put a truth to. And it also brings, I think, the new information of maybe a test or maybe a solution or something that is bringing you clear data that is saying, here's what's going on. It just brings you very clear recognition, and that allows you to lean into that Virgo side of making the plan to finalize this, finalize your steps forward, finalize, achieving a goal. Right? So you get on the right track with this particular energy. So keep that in mind. And all the way until we get to February 28th, we're going to see that Mercury, Saturn, and Sun dancing together here are going to continue to bring information. So if you land at the 24th and you're like, Stormie, my test results aren't back, or, the person I booked a call with can't see me until the 1st of March. No worries. Your information is coming. But I think at the full moon, the thing to know and to bring into your spirit and make time for in your evolution is, I do know what this is. I haven't known exactly what the name of it is, but I do know that something's off. And now, as I'm given the data, I can cement the words and the way forward with what I can do with that, okay? So that's what we've got going with the particular ruling planet of this lunation. But now we've got some other helpers. We've got some other energy that is going on here as well. And I want to talk first, as you guys are going to see on the screen and on the chart, I want to talk about the aspects that are tightest first, and then we will pan out to the other ones, because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack in this particular moon. So without going blind, let's start with some things that are tight. Now, one of the first things I want to say too here is that it doesn't typically, it's not like considered tight per se, okay? But I am going to include it because whenever we're dealing with lunar energy, I give a wider orb. So anything around the moon, anything around a node, I am going to give about 10 degrees orb, because I think it's that important for us to be paying attention to. So, okay, that said, now as you see the moon over here, it's actually right here in loose and separating conjunction with Juno. And Juno is an asteroid. If you haven't watched my my videos on Juno, make sure that you check that out. I'll put a link somewhere around here. But Juno, when we're talking about this particular asteroid, Juno is like the energy of commitment, right? Okay, you have love and like, this is great. I really love you. I care for you. But at Juno's level, we are taking on a commitment, okay? But in the commitment of this, there's also a bit, sometimes it can be the disheartening that can come with commitment, that it's not that easy to take it on, that if you're going to have something long-term when we're dealing with Juno, that sometimes it can feel like a lonely road, or sometimes it feels like I am committed to this, but I'm also a little resentful that I have to be doing this. But it is this commitment to a single thing that we are taking on. Now, I want to just pan out for 2 seconds here with Juno, and please align what I'm saying with how this fits in your life, and bring it to your own circumstance, right? Because if you don't know the story of Juno, or sometimes called Hera when we're talking about it in the mythology, so Hera and Zeus were married to each other. But this is the deal. Zeus was being Zeus, and, you know, he disguised himself as Zeus has done many times. And we're not going to hate on Zeus or men or anything like that, but I'm just telling you the story, okay? So Zeus disguised himself, and Hera falls in love with him is the short of the thing. And they end up ravaging each other's little bodies. And Hera feels terrible about that. And so she's like, okay, well, I can't go out in the street and have a scarlet letter or anything like that. So Hera marries Zeus, right? He reveals his true self. I'm Zeus. She's like, oh my God, I've done it with the God of doing it with everybody. I can't have shame on my name. So Hera marries Zeus, okay? Now, there was a time, right? Think about this in your own story. In the beginning, we get the test results, the information, and there's a time where it's good, it's happy. I'm going about it. I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel good about making this commitment, right? But as the marriage, as the commitment goes on, Zeus goes on to have many infidelities. Zeus goes on to have many infidelities, many bumps in the road, but Juno sits in this position of kind of this forced, obedient submission. So in this way, we see Juno, Hera, switch this role of just committed to this one man, this one cause, this one goal, and she moves into an energy of resentment and revenge, okay? So this is the long term when I think we're looking at some of the plans that we're going to make and needing to have a very realistic attitude and build long term into our plans when we're dealing with Virgo energy. Because what's going to happen? You get your information. We're ready to make the changes. You're off and running at the gates and it's going well and you're committed to this vision. I know I need to lose weight. I know I need to get my finances together. I know I need to deal with this thing in therapy, in my marriage, whatever it is, right? And then we're going along and it starts to get a little bit hard. It starts to get a little bit hard. We get challenged. We get this fear that pushes in on us where it's like, if I it pushes in on that pain and it's like, I'm going to lose something. So then I have this fear of losing my significant other. And the most significant other I have in this case is going to be mercurial, what I think. This idea of if I'm not thinking this way, if I don't have this thing, if it's not this truth, I will lose my most significant other, and that is my current perspective. So then the possessiveness, the resentment, the holding on, the grinding down, I don't want to lose weight, society's stupid, I shouldn't have to lose weight, right? And then everything starts going out, and it's the fault of out instead of the review of within. Now, this is where also I want to say in this connection, in this conjunction with this particular moon, when we're looking at it, Juno in Virgo wants to do it perfect because Virgo wants to be seen very well, wants things to be done very well. So wherever it is that you are going after your goal and your plan, put the perfectionist stuff on the shelf. It's not going to work, right? Like, it's this place for all of us. I'm telling me just as much as you. Trust me, I'm a Virgo rising, so this is coming for me, right? So it's this place where we're not going to do it perfect. The most perfect version of what we're going to do with our healing path and our plan moving forward is going to be to do it because we got to get our lives together. There's a pattern of something that is causing pain. We know what it is, and we need the path to get away from it, and then we need to stay on the path as well, okay? So something else I want you to consider just here is that very in connection with this, we can see that Juno is also in conversation with Jupiter. We can see that Juno is in conversation with Uranus. There are some other quincunx aspects happening here as well. So the thing that I want to highlight in that is that this lunation in conjunction with Juno here is looking for the truth, does want the truth of a deep, intimate relationship, does want commitment. And there is this place of intuition, a knowing, because it comes from something deep within my spirit, which I also believe is that Pisces sun, and the intuition that is speaking up, coming together. It's like intuition of knowing plus institution, the steady earthy structure to get something done, and a willingness to shed an old perspective. But there's an encouragement towards freedom with these particular conjunctions. So I want to make a lot of space and a lot of room to accept the help of that Juno energy where we are making these plans and where we are making these commitments. Now, let's look at the next tight one that I think is really, really good because it has to do with Pallas. And I really dig Pallas. So right away, as we were looking at Pallas, if you don't know the story of Pallas Athena, strategy. This is your strategy energy. So if there's a plan, if there's a war, if you got to go to battle in some way, shape, or form, you really want Pallas on your side because Pallas operates, Pallas Athena operates in this way where Pallas is going to come together and be like, okay, we are making a plan to win this battle, right? And I'm not thinking, Pallas energy is not just thinking impulsively. It's not just like, boom, let's do it. It's like, hold on. This structure that we're taking on might actually be more powerful or more dominant than me, because you got to think that Pallas was thinking about war in an feminine vibration and having to apply a different kind of wisdom than the masculine energy. She was creating plans against, right? So this is where the real wisdom, I think, of Pallas comes in, and it can be something that's like born from Jupiter's head, right? So born from the wisdom of what I'm learning. But as Pallas is here, we're going to make this plan moving forward. Now, Pallas here, if you look at this really beautiful, tight connection. Pallas is in Sagittarius here, so the ability to look at the big picture is absolutely in our favor at this particular connection with the moon. And the thing is it may drop you to your core where it is like, no, the information is not just intellectual. This is not simply just intellectual. You're not looking for a solution to what you're going through, what you know you need to solve from an intellectual place. It's coming from somewhere deep within you. And it may mean that you need a spiritual, or you need a grouping or a solution that really speaks to having rules or having structure or having some kind of principle that you can practically follow and abide by to get your results, right? And this is also going to be too where each of us may be called on to share our Pallas, right? To heal people, to heal ourselves by helping people heal themselves. What's the process that you took? If you were over here and you were hurting and now you're over here and you're not hurting, what happened in the middle for you? What did you do? Now, I absolutely love it. If you can see it here, Pallas is in a gorgeous sextile to Venus, to Mars, to Pluto. Everybody's hanging out over here in Aquarius. So the gift of the strategy at this time is kind of, I don't want to say it's the death of the intellect, right? It's because Virgo is the Virgo lunation. You're easily able to get into perfectionist analysis paralysis. I'm thinking too much. I'm thinking too much. I'm thinking. But of course, Aquarius is an air intellectual sign as well, except for this time. It's like in Pallas's influence, we get to be detached from the death of the ego. We get to be detached from the depth of, I've only ever thought of it this way. This is my perception. There's a detachedness that comes with this, where it is like before it was all emotion. You know, it's like, yeah, but I feel like this, or I feel like that would be scary, or I feel afraid to do this. And in this energy, you get a bit of courage. It's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to feel afraid if you're making a big life change, but you see that this is such a challenge for you, and you know that it has been for a time, that now you're kind of detached enough. You get some information, they send those test results back, and they're like, no, listen, your blood pressure is through the roof. No, you've got to have an anti-inflammatory diet. You know, no, your finances are you're in the negative, right? And you're like, okay, listen, I've got some opportunities here, especially Pallas in that sextile to Pluto, just into Aquarius, where you're like, no, I have some opportunity to use some ideas, use the ideas that other people are sharing with me in order to transform my reality. And I don't know how to be any more excited about that. Now, in this conversation as well, we see that Pallas is square, both the sun and the moon, of course, so we create this T-square aspect. So it is trying to come out of Pallas. And this is where I see, especially that square to the sun, if you're trying to come up with your own solution, you might find yourself feeling really mentally and creatively, I think, blocked or stuck. It's like you've created the solution, the problem, with the best of what you have. You may need the service of someone else's solution in order to apply it to bring you out of where you're at, right? And it's like you can't solve the problem with the same mind pattern or actions that created it. And so with that square to the moon as well, it's like, this is the example I have of Pallas with the square to the moon, is that it's like, let's say that it's overspending, it's overeating, there's an overage in some way that's out of whack in your life, right? We only have 12 departments of life. And you're like, but if I don't, I get this feeling on the inside of me. And if I'm not shopping, or I'm not eating after 10 o'clock, right? The feelings that come up make it feel like I need to handle that. And so you can feel like there's an alienation from having an emotional need met when it's really like an addiction or a behavior or something that is causing the problem. Now, the square of Pallas over here, of course, to Mercury, Saturn, it's going to be helpful that the data, the information will have come into you and you're like, okay, I can't outthink this. We're going to talk about the lunar family as well as to where you might also be getting a response to where this is already happening. So let's talk about Ceres first. And then we'll jump to all the rest of this goodness where you can actually track this further down in your lunar family, okay? So as you can see here at 5 degrees of Capricorn, we've got this other beautiful energy of nurturing Ceres, okay? So the Ceres energy is, there's wisdom in the way that you need to be nurtured. There's a lot of things in Ceres that drop us immediately back into childhood, right? So this is something that has needed attention, and it literally is coming from childhood. Where was there something not nurtured in your household? Where was not something nurtured in your life? Where are you having a hard time nurturing something in your life or in your home that it's like, okay, now it's showing up as a financial, a food, an eating issue. Definitely in Capricorn, it's a business or a lineage issue, right? Things like that, delegating. These can be things. So, this business of Ceres in Capricorn too, I think has these vestiges of I'm only acceptable if I am achieving at a high level. I can only be loved, I can only be nurtured if I'm doing the most, right? And how many places in your life or in your experience, whether it just be your society, because Capricorn can be what we know in public and how our societies have shaped us as well, or our legacy, but where in the structure of your mother or powerful women in your life have you felt this story of, I have to make them proud. I have to let them know what I'm doing based on my accomplishments, and then I can be loved and I can be nurtured. Or where are you handing this out to particularly other women and sometimes men in your life as well, where it's like, you know, the only way I know how to love and care for you is to do for you, is to provide for you, is to take more of that like provider role kind of on, and I'm loving my kids. You know, do you have things going on with people in your life where they're telling you something about themselves and you can't say, that's really awesome. You know, you are fantastic. You are beautiful. You are worthy of love. Or is it like you did this thing well, and that is what makes you lovable, right? Like, how are we even passing this out? And so we see long story short, we see that with Ceres here in Capricorn, that we're going to be looking at that at this particular moon. We're really going into, but with a willingness, I think, to see where this is coming from for us. Now, Ceres is in sextile to the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, of course, in that conversation. And the sextile creates a pocket of opportunity, and then we intelligently take action on it. So you don't have to wait on this one. There is this nurturing principle that is alive, and it is a well, and we are communicating a nurturing. We are communicating a nurturing to ourselves, that forgiveness I was talking about in the beginning. I forgive myself immediately. I love you. I forgive you immediately for what you didn't know, for what we've been learning. I forgive you for being afraid right now because we're going to do something new, but also that love, that nurturing, that compassion, that forgiveness. I forgive my partner, right? If you've been married long term, you know that you die 1,000 little deaths being married. So you got to learn to forgive very, very quickly. And that's what it's built to do. But the forgiveness and the nurturing that is coming through is about long-term success. We want to be loved. We want to help others feel loved, and we want that to last a very long time. So there is an abundance of energy here, and Ceres is in trine to the moon. So there's this opportunity to do it. So it also speaks again to where are you being of service to others in exchange for having this energetic cup filled, your energetic cup refilled. It's like, you were like, I was in a bunch of pain, or I know this thing needs to change. And then you go to the group, or you go to the teacher who's found a solution and has a process, a plan, a strategy, steps you can take to get to the solution. And you feel like, oh my God, this is like the most natural fit in the world to me. Now, this trine to Jupiter, I also think is very useful for helping in that harmonious aspect, call in a teacher and making you willing to expand because you think it's valuable at this time to do so. So see, we've got a lot of help. Now, let's get a little bit more specific as well in the lunar family. I want to give you some timing to go back to in your own life, open up your journals, see what was going on and see what you've been working out. So first of all, if you're not familiar with lunar families, check it out on the screen down below, because every lunation, everything in astrology is happening in a cycle. There are very few one-offs that are ever going. So now we're in a conversation of continuing the cycle that began when we go back to August 27th of 2022, we saw the new moon happening at 4 degrees of Virgo. Now, this was a new moon. So this is where something new would have been coming in. You're planting your seeds of intention in the dark. The room is dark. You're like, I don't know what's going on in here, but I think something magical is happening, right? I always say, and if you haven't watched the video about lunar phases that I did with Stephen Forrest, who's my mentor, make sure you check it out. I'll link it. But we talk about how in the new moon time, your garden is ripe. That soil is lush. So what you plant, for good or for ill, you're going to work on for a bit. Okay. But at that time, it's like, I'm planting seeds and I think they're cucumbers. I really hope these are cucumbers, right? Okay. So you planted something new. The newness was coming in. Now, as we're here at, when we got to May 27th of 2023, then we reached the first quarter moon time when the moon was at 6 degrees of Virgo. So at that time, you started something in August and you were really taking some powerful, get it done, let's move this thing forward kind of energy as we were there in May. Now we're here in February of 2024 and we've got this moon at 5 degrees of Virgo. And so you're going, okay, hold on, where do I need to adjust? Maybe I need to pivot a little bit from that plan, from what I started in August of 2022. Where do I need to pivot, or I need to end something? I need to acknowledge something for what it is, and I need to make the adjustments in my course correction. I also need to ask, does this still have a purpose for me in life, or what's my goal? Please don't ask the word purpose. I'm sorry. Take that scratch. At a full moon, I highly encourage you not to ask what is the purpose of something, because, and I'll say this, the full moon already goes in opposition, which is going like this. So purpose, anything can have a purpose, and the sky's the limits. So we want integration. So under full moon energy, I would love for you to use the word goal, because it makes it so you have to bring both sides of the luminaries to the center. So ask, what's the goal? Strategy, plan of what I'm trying to get done here, and what information do I need to be able to get it done. Now, this will all come to its official culmination November 23rd of this year, when we have the last quarter moon at 1 degree of Virgo. So that will be when you are turning away from everything you were starting in August of 2022. You're winding it down. It's coming to completion. You've got some real resolution around this. And as far as you're going to be able to go in that lesson base. The other reason I share the lunar family for you, besides just the astrological technique of being able to track this and look at another little microcycle in your own being and development, but it's also so that when you're listening and you say, okay, well, I went from this new moon in 2024 to this full moon in 2024. If you feel like, listen, I'm not seeing those results, that's not popping off for me, I think that this next lunar family cycle really has a lot more to offer because you get a bit more time to track and see your own patterns. Virgo wants to know the pattern. So go back in your life. What is the thing that just keeps coming up? And for most people, it is one thing. If it is mental health, if it is rest, go to the particular house that this is happening in your chart. Look at where the Virgo section of your chart is and the Pisces. This will tell you the axes you're working on. And if you don't know how to find this in your chart yet, you're a little bit newer, that's okay. I've got a video in the description box down below to help you find the active transit in your chart. And if you're super brand new, you can download my free workbook showing you all the ways, the 8 steps to put this whole thing together, all the things you need to know to even get into the conversation. I would really encourage you to be able to do that, okay? Now, this is not all beautiful, friends. Let's talk about one other set of aspects that I think is really important, one of which is that we do have Venus and Mars in conjunction with one another, and they are bringing together their new 2-year cycle that they will travel together. And the new 2-year cycle of these two traveling together is all about how we relate to ourselves. Venus is what I'm trying to pull in, right? This is what I'm saying. Okay, come to me, come to me, come to me. And Mars is over there. And this vibration being like, well, let me know what I need to go to. What do I need to go to? What do I actually desire? And here in this Aquarian vibration, one of the things that I think is beautiful is, first of all, to acknowledge, again, that Venus and Mars are coming into their own dance, their own conversation. If you don't know the story of it in the mythology, when we're dealing with a Martian energy, the only energy that a Martian energy is really willing to listen to and consider in terms of making realistic change in any peaceful kind of way is Venus. So as these two lovers are dancing together in their own cosmic connection, it is significant when they begin their cycle together. And the cycle of going, okay, how do I relate to the world? What does the world have to offer to me now that's maybe outside of my own box? Maybe it's outside of my own social box of people, groups that can offer solutions to what I've got going on. And the example I always think of is if you come from a family of people who are overeaters, overspenders, if you come from people who have addiction issues, and this is what the normal landscape of life has been, and you don't feel like you have sufficiently found a solution that grounds you, sustains you, and makes it so that you can be sane on this planet, the out-of-the-box thing to do may be to find the grouping of people who just have that pain point. Is it Alcoholics Anonymous? Is it the perimenopause group? Is it the astrologers learning to build businesses? Is it the overeaters group, right? And vice versa. If all you've had is like, people who are like, we just do it like this. We're no hate to it, but we're the accountants, doctors, lawyers, judges, right? That's like all of my family. And you're like, well, it turns out I'm a song bowl and yoga instructor. Where are the yoga instructors? Like your out of the box re-relating to yourself cycle of Venus and Mars may also be calling you to look at your social world and go, this has to be my tribe because it's the truth of who and what I am at this time. So I think that that's really important for us to consider. Last but absolutely not least, we could spend 10,000 hours in just this chart alone, but we do see that we have also got the North Node and Chiron obviously traveling together here, having recently, not even just recently, continuing a conversation of the healed identity. So at this particular lunation, there's this sense for me, anyways, as we look at it, that the identity is healed. You're not working with the old Chiron story. I'm not just wounded. My identity is not just, I'm not just broken. My vulnerability is going to be what actually saves my behind. It's going to be what helps me, what gets me out of this jam. It is my vulnerability. It is where I did things wrong. It is my challenges. It is my misunderstanding that is actually going to be what saves the life of someone else. And that reminds me that my lack of perfection is also very, very valuable, because nobody's out here holding up the perfection thing. Nobody is living this deal to perfection. But there can be some people who have found a process, who have found a system. You could be the person who's found the system, and now you're able to give that away, because we've got Chiron conjunct that North Node. So the pain that you have felt in your relationships and in your life is really, really, really valuable to helping you, Aries, go to, put out, seek forth your solution. Man, that is so much. There is so much that has been going on at this particular moon. So I invite you to click in the description box down below, find out a little blurb about where this is going to be happening, in what house for you, and take that guidance with you a little bit. And I would also love for you, if you haven't had the opportunity already, to check out the Pluto playlist that I put together for you. Check it out. Pluto is in Aquarius. You want to know all about it. Retrograde, front, backwards, predictions that are coming up. Check out the Pluto playlist. And really, truly, if you haven't put it on in the background while you're doing a little spring cleaning, listen back to your 2024 horoscope that was done by 5 brilliant astrologers and see how you are tracking in terms of where your astrology is unfolding, okay? All right, my beautiful friends, I love you a ton. Please subscribe to the channel, join the soul family, the soulmate family tribe. We would love to have you here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.